Time on Millie. We're just outside of Rock Springs in Wyoming again on the 80. We're on the 80 quite often, but then so are a lot of trucks. It's a pretty busy road. We're hauling an extra light load going through. The other day it was 3,000 pounds. Today we're a little bit heavier at a big whopping 10,000 pounds. Still really light and dangerous for the kinds of winds they can get in Wyoming. Every time we pick up a load, that's the first thing we look at, the weight. If it's real light, we know we're going to be able to buzz up and down the hills a lot faster and do a lot of passing, which is always fun, but we also know we're going to be in a lot more trouble and most likely shutting down if the winds get too treacherous. And then there's the real heavy loads. When we get those, it's usually a matter of adding extra time on our delivery estimate, because we know we're going to be crawling up and down all of the hills at very low speeds, and at that point everybody will be passing us. So for dinner tonight we're having cabbage steaks. I've never made these before. I've made cabbage before, but not cabbage steaks, and not this recipe. And then some lamb chops with it. Now that the cabbage is in the oven and roasting, we'll get the blue cheese dressing started. Dropping this load off up near Seattle last night went really well. It was the first time I've been to that yard, and there was actually a little space to move around. It wasn't packed like it typically is. So Mark got to sleep and I didn't wake him up for help. As soon as I saw the 10,000 pound load on the paperwork, I did an immediate search of the weather to make sure everything was going to be smooth rolling with our light load. And temperature, or the speeds I got on my app told me the highest speed we were going to encounter was about 15 miles an hour. Well, that didn't turn out to be the case. We are currently parked on the side of the road because the wind speeds have gotten up to 30 miles an hour, and that's too dangerous for how little weight we have. Hopefully it will pass quickly and we won't have to sit here for too long, or this load will definitely be late. I don't think I can count how many times we have had to shut down either in or near Wyoming because of the 80, either wind or snow, whiteout conditions and black ice and such. I mean, last year we got stuck in that, I think it was 2 years ago. 2 years ago we got stuck in that snow closure because they couldn't remove the snow from the road faster than it was coming down, and the wind was blowing it after it had come down, so it was building massive piles of snow in certain areas on the road, which the snowplows weren't able to remove, and they ended up having to bring in the heavy equipment, dirt movers, in order to get the road cleared. At that point, I knew that it was closed when we picked up on the East Coast, and I knew we were heading into the road closure. I told Mark, we need to shut down sooner than later. The closer we get to the road closure, the worse the parking's going to be. So we ended up parking at right around mile marker 300 in Nebraska, so about 300 miles from where the road closure is. And I knew there was an alternate route we could take. We could drop down into Denver and then go across the 70 if that road was open. Well, at the time it was closed as well, so we just kept our eye on both of them and called and got permission to reroute if necessary if that road opened up first. When we got to the place, it didn't matter that we were 300 miles away from where the road closure is. There was no parking. Trucks everywhere. Everywhere you could possibly park a truck, there was a truck parked there. And places trucks probably couldn't park as well, but you didn't really have a choice. And then when we went inside, we found out that the shelves were getting stripped quite empty, and you know exactly what people need to live on when things like this happen, because the chips and the protein, like your beef jerky and stuff, were all gone. All the sandwiches, all the fresh things, the fruits and vegetables cleared out. Mostly all that was left was the candies. And then we found out every truck was only being rationed 10 gallons of fuel. You couldn't pump more than 10 gallons of fuel. They were rationing the fuel because the fuel tankers were having a hard time getting into them, and so many trucks there needing to stay warm. They need to make sure there would be enough fuel for everybody to be able to keep their trucks running. Well, we sat there for a while and continuously checked our app for the weather, which apparently every other trucker in the entire area was doing as well, because on a regular basis you would hear comments over the CB telling us what the updates are. And eventually we hear that the road going down into Denver is open. So at that point we immediately log on and hit the road as quickly as we can and head that direction. And we're checking the apps, checking the road conditions in Colorado, and we see that the 70 going over the pass is open as well. So this is really good news. So we have the 300 plus miles to drive to get down into the Denver area, and we're headed that way as quickly as we can, as safely as we can in the weather conditions. And just miles outside of Denver, we check our app and they have closed the 70 going over the pass. So now we have to find parking again, and oh my goodness, we drove all over Denver trying to find some place to park. It was unbelievable how many trucks were parked and shut down in every direction. So once we found a place, we ended up getting permission at a tractor store to let us park in their parking lot, and I sat on the phone all night checking, and at 4 a.m. the 70 opened, and I immediately knocked it into gear and headed straight up over that pass before all the rest of the truckers woke up, and the traffic would have been horrendous. A week's worth of trucks piled up needing to go over the same pass with me. So we made it out of there ahead of everybody, which is, kind of the blessing of being a team truck. Random things like that where you just don't know when you're going to be shut down and you don't know how long you're going to be shut down for is probably one of the reasons that I have a little bit of an issue with food hoarding on my truck that kind of drives Mark crazy. So besides all of the groceries I buy to make the meals for 6 days every week, I also have emergency backup food on my truck. Just in case it's the very end of the week and I've already made all of our meals and we end up shut down, I want to know I have something I can eat. Besides the random candy and chips that they have in the truck stops. So I just have things that store and stay good. A couple of packages of the dried soup mixes I just need to add some water to, and I have some macaroni and cheese and a can of chili so I can make some chili mac. I have pancake mix and some eggs. So if we had been caught in the 95 when it was shut down with trucks and four-wheelers for over a day, we could have been feeding the kids some mac and cheese. So I've never made this cabbage steak before. Got a bunch of fun toppings to put on top. We'll drizzle it with the blue cheese dressing and then put all the toppings on. Maybe Mark won't realize that it's just a salad in disguise. But it looks good. I think we'll enjoy it. Blue cheese and some parsley and some more. I just added the pine nuts. Those weren't in the recipe, but it sounded good since I already had them out. And some sliced cherries. Also not part of the recipe. It's supposed to be sprinkled with bacon, but we're having lamb chops with this. We don't need the bacon. Now the lamb chop recipe I discovered probably 4 years back, and I really like the pistachio and chive breading that you can put on, and then using the mustard to adhere to. It's delicious, and it works just fine on other meats as well. So we got some leftover blue cheese dressing, homemade, delicious. We will save that for next week and have that on a salad, much to Mark's dismay. Okay, we just got to get these grilled up. Now that I have I can plug in my second appliance and start heating it. get these lamb chops going, and then we can eat dinner. Hopefully once we're done with dinner, the winds will have stopped so we can get back on the road. It really is delicious. If you like lamb, I recommend giving it a whirl. And then once we got back on the road, check it out. I wasn't able to get a very good picture of it, but oh my gosh, there was a big gorgeous rainbow going right over the top of the rocks. It was beautiful, much more beautiful in person than these pictures portray.